Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I appreciate all of you hanging out with me on this great Monday in January. And it's a great Monday because your boy is on fire. All of a sudden, my teams can't lose. It doesn't matter what's allied against them. Thursday night, from out of nowhere, Tennessee comes surging back to win their bowl game. And then on Saturday night, I told you it was going to happen. I said to tap the vein. I said to run and put every dollar you had on this game. I said the Titans were going to cover. I said the Titans were going to win. I said they were going to hit their over team total. And the Titans went into Foxborough and they kicked the New England Patriots' ass and ended their dynasty. I really 100 billion% believe that the Brady-Belichick dynasty is over. They will never be in a position again to win the AFC or to win the Super Bowl. I'm not even sure that Tom Brady is going to go back to the Patriots. I think if he had his choice, Bill Belichick would prefer not to go sign Tom Brady to an extension, which means that forevermore, if you are an NFL fan and you hate the Patriots, you will have the Tennessee Titans to thank for ending their reign of terror over the NFL and over sports in general. It was phenomenal to watch Derrick Henry run roughshod over the New England Patriots, who, by the way, are a great champion. I love dynasties. I like great champions because they provoke emotion. You either love the Patriots or you hated them and can't stand their guts, and I think that makes for great theater, and I wanted this to happen. I felt like it was going to happen. Guys, the Titans, there's nothing fancy about this. The Titans are a better team than the Patriots are. Down the stretch run of the season, the Titans went 7-3. The Patriots went 6-4. In their last 8, the Patriots went 4-4. The Titans are better top to bottom. They've got, other than the kicker, who we didn't really have to see except on extra points, the Titans, to me, have the better team top to bottom. It's not an indictment of the Patriots, not saying they're awful. Titans are pretty good. And the only thing that surprised me about this game was that the Titans were able to win, even though Ryan Tannehill didn't even have a good game or even a mediocre game. Let's be honest. He had a bad football game. Passed for 72 yards, fumbled the ball twice to kill drives. The last fumble forced a punt. From the Titans were at the 35. If they just gained 2 or 3 yards, they're attempting a field goal to go up 4. Instead, he fumbles the snap. They don't even get a read. I think there's probably a good chance they would have gone for it on 4th down if they had gained some yardage, and that's assuming that Derrick Henry would have gotten stopped at all. Throws a bad interception in the 4th quarter that gave the Patriots an opportunity to theoretically come back down and kick a field goal. I want you to think about this for a minute, too, as well. Wildly, the Titans wide receiver core total had 2 catches for 10 yards. Think about that for a minute. The entire Tennessee Titan wide receiving core had 2 catches for 10 yards, and the Titans went on the road and won. So credit to the defense, the stand at the goal line near the end of the first half when the Patriots had a 1st and goal at the 1 and tried to run it 3 different times and got snowed under 3 different times by Rashaan Evans in particular. This is a complete endorsement of Mike Vrabel and the team that he has put together. The quarterback play changed everything. The Titans are now 8-3 in their last 11. I don't think the Titans are going to go on the road and beat the Ravens. The Ravens are favored right now to win the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody's going to go on the road, really, and beat the Ravens. But it wouldn't stun me if this game is super tight in the 4th quarter and the Titans put themselves into a position to have a chance to win the game. So we'll see what ends up happening, but this is the biggest win for the Titans in 20 years. You can go watch my Periscope live reaction. I was ecstatic. Phenomenal win for the Titans. I love tap dancing on the grave of the New England Patriots. Much to be decided about Tom Brady in the days and weeks and months ahead. I would say this. When you look at the larger landscape right now, there are 5 or 6 teams that might be interested in Brady. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears, the LA Chargers, Dallas Cowboys, if you really want to throw some wild thoughts out there, Indianapolis Colts. There are a lot of different directions that the NFL teams could go in potentially signing Tom Brady. Not sure exactly who will get him. We also have to wait and see whether Josh McDaniels gets hired. That's another element to the dynasty that I think is going to take a hit when Josh McDaniels leaves and probably gets a head coaching job. But we had an awesome time watching this game. Biggest Titans win since the Super Bowl run, and I'm excited to watch on Saturday to see what might happen in the game between the Titans and the Ravens. The Titans owe the Ravens. Twice the Ravens have come into Nashville when the Titans were the number 1 overall seed and knocked the Titans out of the playoffs. When if the Titans had merely won that game, they would have been hosting the AFC Championship game in Nashville with the chance to go to the Super Bowl. The Titans won one game on the road in the playoffs against the Ravens years and years ago, but we owe them for 2008. They have the better team, but I'd love to have the better Saturday and beat them and advance to play against either the Texans or the Chiefs. So we will see what ends up happening there, but a monster win for the Titans, who suddenly look like a young team on the move regardless of how you want to break it down. Look like a young team on the move. They're going to keep Ryan Tannehill. They're going to keep Derrick Henry. We didn't even see anything from A.J. Brown. We'll see whether or not he can step it up on Saturday and have a better game reflective of the season that he's had so far. I'm excited to watch this game, and props to the Titans. 3 other big winners. Let's start with the Texans. Texans, I felt like they completely Clemson-Tigered this game. They were down 16-0, and it looked like all was lost. And out of nowhere, Deshaun Watson just refused to allow his team to lose in Houston. I thought the decision-making down the stretch by Sean McDermott as the head coach and by Josh Allen at quarterback was abysmal. And I still think that the call on the chop block block was wrong, completely wrong. No way to defend that. In overtime, you can't make a call like that. But as Deshaun Watson said, somebody had to be great. Why not me? I love that manner of thinking. And on a play where it looked like the Bills were about to get off the field and force a punt, they simultaneously hit Deshaun Watson. Neither one of those guys wrapped up. I mean, I know you go for the big hit, but I don't know why you don't wrap up. You get your arms on those legs, that guy's going to come down. Instead, you go for the big hit. They simultaneously big hit him on both sides. And as a result, Deshaun Watson gets out of that mess, makes a huge play, wins the game for the Texans, and the Bills have still not won a playoff game since 1995. That one stings because they were in perfect shape to do it. I thought there were a lot of questionable decisions made down the stretch by both sides in this game, but ultimately the Texans withstand the Bills, surge back from a 16-0 deficit. If you want to focus on a couple of plays, to me, integral plays that occurred that really kind of factored in here, the 2-point conversions. You can't, if you have this defense that the Bills have, you can't allow a team to come back from 16-0, and you can't allow them to go 2 for 2 in 2-point conversions either. So credit to Deshaun Watson and the Texans for getting their first playoff win together, and for this team advancing to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. Can we, by the way, get another shot of J.J. Watt? ESPN went so over the top on the number of times that they showed J.J. Watt on the sideline, J.J. Watt's brother. If you were remotely connected to J.J. Watt, ESPN had a camera on you the entire game. It was uncanny how ridiculous that was. But Texans get the win. How about the Vikings? The Vikings go on the road against the Saints. This is the biggest upset of the weekend. They were the biggest underdog of the entire wildcard weekend, over a touchdown underdog, and you got to give it up for my boy Kirk Cousins. You like that indeed. We may even be able to put in the video from Fox of him celebrating with his teammates. If you haven't seen the You Like That video, Kirk Cousins is one of the most criticized players in the entirety of the NFL, if not the most criticized player in the entirety of the NFL. People take shots at him left and right. He never won a playoff game, and he went on the road in the Superdome and got it done. That's 3 straight losses, by the way, on the final play of the game for the Saints. The Minneapolis Miracle last year with the long field goal in overtime after the missed call on the pass interference, and now this one. absolutely brutal for Saints fans, but New Orleans didn't play well. They put themselves in that position. Kirk Cousins made a huge throw to Adam Thielen. Then he made a great throw to Kyle Rudolph. You can argue that it was pass interference till you're blue in the face. Officials have basically announced that they are not going to overturn on-field results unless they are egregious. And so as a result, the Vikings get a monster win on the road against the Saints. Just monumental for them to get that win. They head out to San Francisco. Lots of questions about what's to come for the Saints. My big question for the Saints would be this. What's happened to Alvin Kamara? What has happened to that guy has pretty much vanished from the Saints offense. As good as Taysom Hill has become, the Swiss Army knife that they can use any different direction. What's happened with Alvin Kamara? 7 carries, 21 yards. He doesn't look healthy to me. He doesn't look like he's got the same vitality that he used to have in that offense. He just doesn't seem to fit at all. So that is my thoughts on the Vikings. Saints have some interesting decisions to make going forward. Really probably need to go get help in the secondary and also need another receiver to complement Michael Thomas. Seahawks. This I know we talked a lot about the injury to Trevor Lawrence and the hit that he took that was a targeting foul that knocked the Ohio State defensive back out of the game. The fact that the NFL doesn't have a mechanism to handle hits like the one Jadeveon Clowney put on Carson Wentz is a flaw of the NFL's entire system. They talk about how much they want to protect quarterbacks. They'll throw flags if you land on the quarterback inappropriately, if you hit them in a different part of the body inappropriately. But when you go helmet to helmet on a quarterback who's already on the ground, there's no flag, there's no penalty, there's no ejection, there's no impact whatsoever. Sorry, that is flat out wrong. It doesn't make any sense at all. The NFL needs to adjust to this. They need an eye in the sky. They need an ability to review plays in real time as they happen and ensure that they don't miss anything. I don't know that the outcome would have been any different. I liked the Seahawks and I liked the under in this game, even before I knew that Carson Wentz wasn't going to be in. But, my God, that was an egregiously bad hit. Having said that, props to Russell Wilson, props to the Seahawks. How good is DK Metcalf? How about the fact that Hugh Freeze had both DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown in the same recruiting class at Ole Miss? How much of physical freaks are those two guys? Absolutely phenomenal performances from DK Metcalf and from A.J. Brown during the course of the regular season. This is now, I think, a really interesting game to think about the Seahawks going on the road against the Packers. I believe they have a good chance to get a win there. We'll see exactly what ends up happening, but that in and of itself, standing alone, is going to be really interesting to see what happens. Those were your 4 wild card outcomes, okay? If you missed it a little bit earlier, Tua announced at noon Eastern about a little bit less than 3 hours ago that he was going to be going pro at a press conference introduced by Nick Saban. I believe it's 100% the right decision by Tua Tagovailoa, and I'd be stunned if he falls very far down in the first round, given how desperate teams are to find quarterbacks. Here is, by the way, the top of the draft board, if you're curious who might be drafting Tua. We know probably the Bengals are going to take Joe Burrow number 1 overall. Seems unlikely Washington will draft another first-round quarterback, given the fact they got Dwayne Haskins and Ron Rivera. Detroit is an interesting angle. Matt Patricia gets to keep his job, didn't have a very good season, 3-12-1. Are they committed long-term to Matthew Stafford? How healthy is he? Maybe that's one worth paying attention to. The Dolphins at 5 or the Dolphins at 18. Remember, they get the Steelers picks. Then you got the Chargers, who seem like they would be in the mix to go get a quarterback as well. Carolina at 7 is certainly in the quarterback derby. Jacksonville? I don't know. Are they really committed to Gardner Minshew? That'll be worth paying attention to. And then you start to move down. Oakland? Could it be that Oakland has one more year of Derek Carr and then they decide, you know what, maybe we do want to try to go with somebody new with John Gruden? And Indianapolis, I wouldn't surprise me at 13 if Indianapolis is in the mix. Tampa Bay at 14. My point in all of this is Tua is going to go I believe, in the top half of the first round. And if he falls further down into the draft, he's actually probably going to benefit because he'll be going to a better team that's more prepared to win and doesn't necessarily have to throw him out there to the wolves like we've seen happen with Baker Mayfield and a lot of other first-round picks. And frankly, like we may see happen with Joe Burrow early in his tenure with the Cincinnati Bengals. I love the decision by Tua. You can never make back the money you don't earn. He's had 2 ankle surgeries. He's had a broken hip. You need to go now. It is the time to strike. You'll be a top 15 pick. I would be very surprised if he's not a top 15 pick, Tua, that is. And so, as a result, he made the right decision. Congrats to him on consulting with the right people and his family and everyone else to figure out exactly what to do. It was the right call. The Cowboys, operating, moving swiftly, have hired Mike McCarthy, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, to replace Jason Garrett. Evidently, this decision was sealed in a sleepover at Jerry Jones's house on Saturday night. Now, this is hysterical to me on every level. I'm not a guy who likes to sleep over at anybody's house. I sleep in my house. If I'm on the road, I want to be in a hotel. My wife picks on me about this. Maybe I'll stay in my in-laws' houses. But otherwise, I want all the time to be in my house. Or I want to be in a nice hotel room where I'm on my own. I love the Dallas Cowboys and watching them play. I think it'd be fantastic to go out drinking with Jerry Jones. I don't even want to stay at Jerry Jones's house. I don't want to spend the night with Jerry Jones in his house. And I'm a lot less famous than Mike McCarthy, but evidently that sealed the deal. Mike McCarthy to the Dallas Cowboys, and Jason Garrett is jettisoned. Now the question becomes, which I think is still more paramount, what's going to happen with Dak's contract? What's going to happen with Amari Cooper's contract? Are you going to franchise Dak? Or are you going to sign him to a long-term deal? What's the plan there? Let me know that. I think it's more integral than what happens right now with the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, 77, 78 years old. You know what he wanted. You know that he wanted somebody who he thought could come in and win quickly. This is Jerry Jones trying to find a Band-Aid. We'll see whether or not he's got a gut wound or a small cut, because Mike McCarthy feels like a Band-Aid, not a wholesale realignment of the overall talent and direction of that franchise. All right, a couple of other thoughts. Did you see Ricky Gervais absolutely destroy Hollywood last night at the Golden Globes? As soon as the Eagles game against the Seahawks ended on NBC, they went straight in to what I thought was a fantastic monologue from Ricky Gervais. I'm going to see if we can interject one of these for the cuts that we do on these shorter forms. In particular, the lines about how Hollywood would try to sign, they'd call their agents if ISIS started off a streaming network. He went after many of this woke capitalistic BS that I've been focused on with you guys for a long time, about how everybody in Hollywood is so woke, but they're fine working with Apple and all the slave labor that Apple has going on to make the iPhone. They're fine working for Disney and all the ridiculous decisions that Disney makes to keep China happy. They're fine working with a variety of large companies which are complicit in bending the knee to large multinational corporations. And in fact, Nike is the worst of all, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But this is what speaking truth to power actually represents. The CEO of Apple is there. The CEO of Netflix is there. The CEO of all these different major companies, as well as the high-powered actors and actresses that power the engines of their economic growth, are there. And Ricky Gervais brought a flamethrower and just barbecued them all. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was fantastic. And I also think that we're starting to see the death knell of wokeism. I really think it's starting to die, because even on social media, look at the love affair that arises for comedians like Ricky Gervais who go off. I saw it with Dave Chappelle. Remember when Dave Chappelle came out, did his special, and everybody was mad at Netflix, and the critics said it was awful, and the fans loved it. 99% absolute in love with it. And so I think that what we're starting to see is a interesting coalition of creative people, comics, a lot of people who are in the creative space who are finally saying enough is enough. We're sick of everything being racist. We're sick of everything being sexist. We're sick of this constant woe is me, victimization mentality. America is awful. And you're finally starting to see people punch back in the other directions. And so I believe what is happening here is we're starting to see a rebellion against all these tiny minority of people who are a part of the woke community, and they are all being absolutely destroyed. And as a result, they are getting wiped out and wiped the floor with. And so I believe this is a big time change. A rebellion is afoot, and it is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Somebody just said, you can't be funny if you're afraid of offending everyone. Screw woke culture. Amen. I think comedians, I think entertainers, I think everybody is starting to 100% come around in this direction. And I'm going to close with this. Colin Kaepernick is the biggest fraud and the biggest sham in the history, I believe, of sports. And the degree to which people in my industry have bent over backwards to avoid hurting his feelings and avoid actually standing up and speaking truth to power, frankly, is an embarrassment for sports media. It's an embarrassment for media in general, and it's a complete embarrassment for Nike. And in particular, let me read you what Colin Kaepernick tweeted on Saturday during the wildcard games. And I will say this. There are a lot of signs that Colin Kaepernick is just desperate for attention. And he always seems to speak out when everybody's paying attention to the NFL. And Colin Kaepernick tweeted that to criticize America for our stance against Iran. There is nothing new about American terrorist attacks against black and brown people for the expansion of American imperialism. This is so insanely stupid, all right? Colin Kaepernick is ignorant of much of American history. He isn't a very intelligent person from a historical perspective. I don't think he's done much reading. I don't think he's actually exposed his mind to very much history, right? This is not just an indictment of Colin Kaepernick. This is an indictment of America in general. Everybody is perpetually overreacting to everything on social media because everybody has the actual memory of like a goldfish. No one understands history at all. I am a huge history buff, right? The idea that people sit around and say, well, America's more divided right now than it ever has been before. Excuse me? Do you have anything called the American Revolution? Have you heard of the Revolutionary War when we had loyalists and we had revolutionaries and we had people fighting everywhere all over America? Oh, by the way, have you heard of the Civil War where the two sides of the country actually took up arms against each other and hundreds of thousands of people died? Have you heard of World War I and World War II? This is a fundamentally broken narrative that is being sold by idiots, by dolts who are either too unintelligent to understand American history, or they are intentionally trying to make things seem worse than they are because they believe they score political points by doing so. I think it's probably a combination of both. I think most of these people are not smart, and I think they also are intentionally making things sound worse than they are. Even a comparison of America to 1968, 50 years ago, is utterly insane too. In 1968, we were at war with Vietnam. We had the civil rights movement, which was underway. We had all of these conflicting and massive issues coming to a head simultaneously. In 2019 and 2018, it's like the late 90s. This is the analogy I've been making for a long time. Stock market's soaring. Unemployment is low. We got a president who is unpopular with one half the country over mostly the way he conducts himself, not as much what he actually does as the way he does it. Bill Clinton got impeached. Donald Trump got impeached. Y'all, I lived through it. This is all that all over again, okay? There was a vast right-wing conspiracy allied against Bill Clinton. I think that's true. There's a vast left-wing conspiracy allied against Donald Trump. I voted for Bill Clinton. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but I think he's doing a fine job, all right? In the grand scheme of things, we're doing fine as a country. Chill out. Don't be so worried about everything, okay? The world is fine, okay? So, into this mess comes Colin Kaepernick with his awful, blatantly wrong, historically inaccurate things that he constantly throws out. What is an indictment here, more so than anything else to me, this is not about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is not intelligent. There's always been unintelligent people who are going to be selling an inaccurate version of reality and making money off it. That's what Colin Kaepernick is doing. He is selling the idea that America is an awful place, that it's always been an awful place, that Americans are awful. I mean, remember, this is the same guy who said Cubans had more freedoms than us, okay? Take away anything involving America right now. The man that we killed, Soleimani, killed thousands of Iranians who dared to speak up and try to have freedom of expression in Iran. He has killed thousands of American soldiers. He is a terrorist. If Colin Kaepernick went to Iran and said the things about Iran that he is saying about America, they would put him in prison and he would never be heard from again, okay? If you are going to defend third world treatment, lack of human rights from all these countries all over the world, you should have to go live there. All right, Colin Kaepernick, you go to Cuba and see how you're treated. You go to Iran. Don't go there and criticize the United States. Live for a year or two, recognize all the flaws that exist in those countries, and start to use your voice to point out the inadequacies that exist in those countries and see what actually happens to you. One of the big problems we have in America today is most of our most ardent critics of America have no idea what the rest of the world is like. Many of them have never even left American borders. You have no idea what goes on a day-to-day basis in Asia, in Africa, in parts of Europe, in much of the rest of the world. You have no clue how many rights, how many incredible advantages and privileges you have. You have American privilege. I'll talk a lot about white privilege or all these different privileges, right? Every single person born in America today has American privilege, and most people who have American privilege don't even understand how much privilege they have relative to every other place in the rest of the world. I do think that things would change a lot if every single American had to go live in a third world country for a year. Go live in a third world country for a year. Come back here and think about America in a different way. I guarantee you it would be impossible for you not to do it. But here's the big issue with Colin Kaepernick in general. The guy is selling the idea that America is a fundamentally awful and racist place because of how it treats black and brown people, while he is allowing his shoes and his products to be manufactured by virtual slave labor overseas by black and brown people. If you care so much about the plight of the disadvantaged people in this country or in this world, Colin Kaepernick, you aren't showing it at all based on the way that you are behaving. You are the equivalent of a modern day slave master, okay? You don't work, you don't have a job, and other people labor on your behalf and you make money off of what they do. You are like a plantation owner sitting up on the top deck with somebody fanning him while everybody works out in your fields and you make all the money. That is what you are doing with your Nike shoes. You aren't creating equality. You are the plantation owner when it comes to the process of you making shoes, all right? Furthermore, if you want to study world history, there has never been a country in the history of the world that has been more on the side of truth and justice than America, period. We have lifted hundreds of millions, if not billions of people out of poverty. Who is fighting AIDS more than anybody else in the world in sub-Saharan Africa, where it is a global affliction there? The United States. Who is killing malaria and saving children at untold rates all over the world based on our generosity and historic largesse? The United States. Who stood up and freed the world from Nazi Germany and totalitarian Japan in World War II? The United States of America. There has never been, ever, in the history of the world, a better voice for truth, justice, and human rights in history, in global history, than the United States. So you are an ignorant dolt, Colin Kaepernick. You are not intelligent. You are uneducated. And everyone who is following you is also an unignorant dolt that is unintelligent and has no clue whatsoever what the world is actually like. I'm fired up about this because stupidity makes me angry. And Colin Kaepernick is the dumbest athlete that has ever been given a public voice in the history of this country. Nike should be ashamed of itself. The sports media that has propped up and allowed themselves to be stooges for Colin Kaepernick should be embarrassed. Every single media member who has ever allowed Colin Kaepernick's stupidity to be given a voice should be ashamed. This guy is a clown. This guy is a joke. I would love to debate him sometimes, anytime, any place, anywhere. I would fillet him. By the time we were done, if Colin Kaepernick and I got on a stage together and debated anything under the sun, I would fillet him. He would not be able to be taken seriously by anyone for the rest of his life. This dude is not smart anytime, any place, anywhere. I will end you, Colin Kaepernick. You have the intellectual depth of a snail, and not a very smart snail either. Kisses, DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I'm Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. I appreciate all of you. Be live here in about a half hour. I'm going to be celebrating. Got the white jacket that I'm going to put on. My Titans are into the Elite Eight, and your boy's the king on Lock It In. 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis, and this has been Outkick the Show. Kisses. See y'all. Love you. See y'all.